Surgeons of Reddit, what's the weirdest object you've had to remove from someone's butt? I wasn't the surgeon. I was the patient's family doc and took care of him in the hospital for his short stay after he had a cue ball get stuck. Not sure exactly what he thought would be the way to get it out. We had a lot of trouble getting it out. The conversation of the surgeons trying to come up with a way to get it out was pretty hilarious. I'm a vet. Dog had eaten a whole roll of poop bags, the plastic baggies people use to clean up after their pets on walks. They unspoiled in his gut and spread from stomach to colon. His owners realized what had happened when he started pooping out bags and brought him in through a. My co-worker went in to cut him, and the scene she described was hilarious. He would intermittently strain a little and poop out a little section of bags. Someone would tear them off, and he'd be okay for a bit, then poop out some more, like he was dispensing them for himself. He did great after surgery. A doc here. As previous posters suggest, it becomes hard to distinguish what is weird anymore, so judge for yourselves. 3 lemons, about a foot of broom handle, a light bulb, which did not survive his adventure, so many toilet brushes, inserted brush and handle first, a series of toothpicks, any number of bottles, aerosol cans, etc. My favorite case was a simple corn cob. We read it in the radiologist's report read. There is an approximately 15 cm cylindrical foreign body in the large intestine extending proximally from the rectum. Judging by the indistinct outline of the foreign body, I suspect it is still on. When life gives you lemons. Endotech here. Had a guy come in with a capped section of PVC pipe filled with mercury because he liked the sloshing when he jerkin his turkin. Had to call in hazmat and security had to be called when he became violent because they wouldn't give a mercury laden pipe back. A nurse. I've seen baseballs, loads of corn cobs, cans of soda, vegetables. There should be a public service announcement about using corn cobs in the bum. It needs to have balls or some sort of base so it doesn't get lost up there. Women's glory hole corn cans don't need them, as there is only so far it will go. A doctor I worked with once told a man, it's okay if you want to put things in your rectum. You just have to use the right things. Without a base, without a trace. Years ago my nurse wife told me a man had an apple removed from his butt, but I never understood how this could be possible. I often think about this but have never asked her for more details. I'll ask her over the table at Christmas dinner tonight. Disappointing update. I didn't ask her at the Christmas dinner. There were small children around and everyone was having a nice time. It didn't seem cool to bring it up. Also no one else started any butt stuff related conversations, providing an opening for my inquiry. I asked her today but also told her about my post on here. She didn't feel comfortable sharing the details with you guys, so I guess you'll just have to use your imagination. Someone posted about a similar situation and suggested they had possibly worked with my wife. Based on the details in their post I am sure it was a separate apple butt incident. Oh, you can safely get things bigger than an apple in an anus. Your rectum is pretty stretchy if you go slow. An enormous silicone butt plug which broke off at its base inside the patient. It was shaped like a soft cone on a stalk, with the base at the bottom. Had to remove it in pieces. Also, an Orangina bottle 2 years before this butt plug. A friend of mine is a surgery resident, and during one of her trauma shifts a head walked in with an incandescent light bulb in his colon. It was shoved in with the wide part first. They were dilating the rectum in an attempt to remove it, and the resident in charge of the procedure managed to accidentally separate the metal base from the glass globe, which immediately shattered under the pressure of the colon. They had to perform a partial colectomy to resolve the complication. M is a heck of a drug. A foreign body per rectum is a fairly common occurrence. In my time rotating in the most common things have been yucca roots, avocados, shampoo bottles, etc. But that light bulb story is still unmatched. I wouldn't have believed it if I hadn't seen the x-ray. Jesus H. Get a dang butt plug if you like that sort of thing. On a positive note, at least that guy didn't die and that x-ray must have been priceless. I'm sure there's one hanging on some doctor's wall somewhere, lol. When I worked in the OR we had a guy come in with a 6 battery mag light stuck up Main Street. The funny part is that it was inserted bulb out and it was turned on. So we laid him down prone and the doc spread his cheeks, Then the room lit up like he just cracked open Marcellus Wallace's briefcase. I suppose the light does shine down there. Back when I was in a tech, we had this guy come in with a full-size bottle of VO5 shampoo up his butt. Of course he said he fell on it in the shower. You could clearly see it on the x-ray. It was pretty spectacular. The best part was he knew exactly what needed to be done to get it out, suggesting that this wasn't the first time. He asked for conscious sedation and for someone to pull it out. Well, the ED doctor tried that, then tried to manually get it out with forceps, and was essentially elbow deep in this dude, but couldn't get it. He had to go to the operating room to get it taken out. I bumped into the surgeon a few days later and asked him how it went. He joked to me that after we knocked him out, I grabbed a plunger out of the bathroom and got it out that way, but then told me all he had to do was stick some suction up there till he felt it connect, and then slowly pulled it out. According to the surgeon, this guy never presented any sort of identification or insurance card, and demanded to pay his entire bill before he left. Usually takes some time for bills to get finalized. He paid it completely in cash, and then left via a taxi. Bloody heck. I feel like if you were that much of a pro you could attach a string to it or something in case it happens again, haha. Not my story. My friend is a radiographer. A guy came into the hospital with Barbie dolls up his butt. After scans, one came out without too much issue, but the other was too far up. They were worried that if it was pulled out, its arms would open and puncture the bowel, so they scheduled surgery, the x-ray staff waiting excitedly for news. The surgeon then returned and with a serious voice announced, "We've found Ken. It's a boy." Not a surgeon, but wowie wowie, do I know a lot of cases involving falling on things and other such excuses. Here are just some of the things I know. A Buzz Lightyear action figure, a Barbie doll, plaster of Paris. They wanted a mold of his colon. Instead, it had to be cut open as it was glued shut by the plaster. Glasses, the sight kind. Jewelry, mostly necklaces. A cucumber witch, after proclaiming he fell over in the garden naked and landed on his cucumber patch. Still had the Tesco wrapper on it. A light bulb. Finally, on a rather dark note, if you're a fool who slips something up their black hole, cause the bus sucks things in disturbingly well. They can't retrieve. Please, for the love of God, go to your doctor. People have died due to toxic shock due to this crap. A guy here died of it in 2 weeks due to having a corn cob stuck up there and never went to his docs. Your pride can recover, but you can't recover from death. A Buzz Lightyear action figure. That guy had a friend in him. Not me, but a good friend I have known since 6th grade who is an emergency room doctor. Straight couple in their early 20s and they were using a celeb on her. They switch. He said it was his first time, and they had lube everywhere and the slim 6-inch celeb disappeared all the way up in him while it was still on. They waited and tried to get it out on their own and finally went into the air. They were going to wait till the batteries died, but it was getting late. My buddy tried to get it out but couldn't get it. He told the guy they might have to do surgery to get it. The guy asks my buddy if he has to go and can he call his mom and tell her. My buddy laughs and says, "You are 22 and you get to call your mom to tell her you have a buzzing celeb in your butt that might be perforating your colon." Then my buddy remembers a guy he went to medical school who works in the same hospital. He has freaky long thin fingers like ET that might work. The other doctor gloves up and gets the celeb still buzzing out of him. Just for your information, it is really easy for this to happen, so limit the lube on your hands. Your colon gets like a suction on it and things go in easy, like what happened to these guys. The trick is having something with a base. Always have a nice wide base on anything inserted back doors. I was an RN at a busy Detroit emergency department. A homeless woman, frequent flyer and drug abuser, came in to see us with abdominal pain. The x-ray revealed 17 oval-shaped objects in her T. They were removed by a very diligent medical resident armed with a speculum and McGill forceps. With the aid of an ultrasound tech, 17 Barbie doll heads. Their removal was made a bit easier by their long hair. Reminded me of the man with the small fluorescent bulb in his rectum. He insisted on the doctor in the ER just pulling it out and sending him on his way. But those bulbs break very easily, lacerated colon, and are full of toxic chemicals, poisoning. Surgical removal was recommended, but he flatly refused, because hey, what would he tell his wife? He signed out AMA and we never saw him again. Jesus frick, people are weird. Son of a doctor here. My dad removed an entire peeled sweet potato from someone's colon once. He swore that he had just slipped and fell on it. Maybe he was just cooking while naked. He peeled the potato, put it on the floor so he can get something from the fridge, and whoops, just slips and falls right on the potato. We received a patient with horrible pain that felt like constipation. He couldn't poop and laxatives weren't helping. We soon found out that the blockage wasn't just constipation. It was a string of beads several meters long that had become tangled into an ugly ball inside. I had to snip it apart and carefully pull pieces of it out. When most of it was out, his butthole became a rocket engine with diarrhea as the propellant. I once had a flatmate who was a nurse. She had a patient who came in complaining of stomach pains, which was caused by the cucumber he'd shoved up his butt a couple of days earlier. Apparently the smell caused by pickling a cucumber in your colon is extremely nasty. Forbidden butt pickle. I'm not a doctor, but my cousin is a colorectal surgeon. She's dealt with at least 2 people who've put light bulbs in their butts. Not the butt, close to it. My sister worked in a urology clinic and has some very crazy stories ranging from at-home gender change procedures to this case in particular. She had to remove almost 200 BBs from a guy's bladder via his urethra one by one, as the guy had a fetish of shoving things down his urethra. Looks like his BB gun was pump action. MD, but not a surgeon. On my surgery we had to remove a mini Nerf football from someone's butt. He kept apologizing and saying he wasn't gay. Later, the attending surgeon told us that it's always the straight guys coming in with stuff up their butts and they always try explaining that they aren't gay. I always love when they come up with a convoluted story about how the FB got there. One guy told me with a straight face that he was getting inside his car, naked, and he forgot there was an avocado on the seat. From looking at the medical reddits, I have learned that every type of object known to man has been placed inside of someone's anus somewhere at least once. We progress from sticking everything we see into our mouths as kids to sticking everything in our butt as adults apparently. Every type of object known to man has been placed inside of someone's back somewhere at least once. Who wants to moderate our Rule 35? Not a surgeon, but a former anesthesia technician while in the army. I had a few interesting cases come through. Top 5, not in order. 1. Light bulb. Not like a lamp light bulb, but one of those LED lightsaber bulbs that you see air traffic controller people using. 2. 24-inch double-ended ribbed black corn cob. That was a guy who had it stuck there. 3. Soda can. 4. Ken doll. This was actually removed from a woman's glory hole. 5. Half a baguette. Not a freaking clue how that happened honestly. I've thought about it a lot and just never could figure it out. Not a freaking clue how that happened. Not chewing. Girl I know had suspected cervical cancer. Saw 2 different doctors before a specialist examined her surrounded by trainee doctors. Grabbed and pulled on what everyone thought was an inflamed, infected, tumorous cervix. It was a love egg. It had been in there for 3 months. Glass corn cobs, vibrating corn cobs, travel toothbrush holder, Campbell's soup can, cucumber, mag light, cologne bottle, Sean John unforgivable head, time capsule, light bulb, aerosol can cap. The oddest one was literally nothing. Guy comes in complaining of something stuck up their butt by girlfriend. A doctor feels and nothing there. X-ray and CT scan says maybe something there. I don't feel anything. In the operating room I feel deeper and still nothing. Finally do a full colonoscopy and nothing there. A Campbell's soup can. Not a surgeon but my ex was. A policeman and his wife came in because he had something stuck up his butt. When my ex asked what, the wife said a celeb, exactly like this one, and pulled out a 9-inch celeb from her handbag. That was pretty diligent of her to bring the other one for reference. Cassava. And everybody in my country knows it cause it showed up in the news because someone in the operating room had the great idea to record a video of it and make it viral. The patient sued the hospital. Middle-aged man goes into A&E with something up his back passage. Goes into X-ray where he sees my girlfriend. What's up there for baking potatoes? Not the little ones either, each one about the size of a fist. As he tells it, he was at home cooking dinner and slipped in the kitchen and 4 potatoes went up his ass. Sure they did. The first one he slipped on, and he thought he was okay. Then the second was fallen upon. By the third potato accident, he started to think, okay, maybe I should stop cooking, but the fourth was the last straw. I'm so glad you asked this. My favorite sorry was a guy who came in with an can of Glade up his butt. What scent, you ask? Timeless joy. Wife is a surgeon resident. She's had to remove a toilet brush from a man's butt. When asked why it was up there, he said he wondered how it would feel. Turns out he also wondered about plungers and toothbrushes too. My mom worked in the ER at Johns Hopkins back in the 70s. She pulled a Coke bottle out of a senator's butt. She refuses to say who though because ethics. I think most people believe that big companies are up the politicians' asses, but this is taking it a bit too much directly. Boyfriend of a girl whose mom is an or nurse. From her, a hand-carved foot-long wooden corn cobs from an 80-year-old man's. Story from her father, an EOD, a live grenade in the tea of the very scared cheating girlfriend of a very angry soldier. Had a friend in med school whose assignment was to figure out how his cadaver died. He found about $5 in quarters up the man's butt. Don't shove metal up your butt, metal poisoning is real. But hey, $5 is $5. Vet surgeon here might have an unfair advantage in this thread. One time a dog ate its own foot. Dog came in missing a paw from the wrist down. Owner had no idea where it went, but the dog also had some serious GI signs. One X-ray elucidated both problems. Not every day you see an abdomen with a literal limb inside. Not a surgeon. However, I knew someone in high school who decided to shove a Huxburg Nano, small bug toy, up his butt. I wonder how he's doing. He just vibbin'. Mason jar. Not a surgeon but worked at the hospital. Dude had a mason jar up his butt and a bunch of safety pins through his dong. Drugs. OR. Nurse here. One time helped remove a G.I. Joe from someone's butt. Like, full-size 12-inch OG doll. The X-ray was hilarious. Gastrointestinal Joe. I did some rotations. Paramedic, not doc, in Vegas, and a guy came in with an onion stuffed up there. The surgeon who was tasked to remove it asked if he would cry once he cut the onion out. I've been a surgeon for 15 years and let me tell you, weirdest thing? Probably Legos. I'm talking Lego people and Lego bricks. So many small pieces. It's hard for me to watch my kids play with them now knowing what I know. Medical student, not a surgeon, but one stroke to a nunchuck. The other half left in ice lack between the eyes of his girlfriend when it broke. She needed stitches. Remember kids, cheap nunchucks you win at a carnival make bad adult toys. Internal medicine physician here. Not sure why everyone thinks surgeons would be the ones removing stuff from people's rectums when it's probably most often the emergency department or us. Personally, the grossest thing I have manually disimpacted was probably a partially digested whole corn on the cob that the patient had eaten several days prior. Was just pulling out fistfuls of corn for like half an hour. But yes, I also have definitely seen the occasional light bulb, razor blade, or corn cob lost in the abyss. Probably the best story I have heard was during residency. My co-resident spent a good amount of time searching around for a Q-tip that a patient lost up his butt while stretching up there. He told the patient he was unsuccessful at finding the Q-tip only to be asked why in the world he was expecting to find one. Turns out he was supposed to be looking in the patient's roommate's butt. Had to go do another rectal exam next door. Must have been an awkward conversation across the curtain later that night. Not a surgeon. Heard this from my father-in-law who used to work as a nurse. They had a guy come in who had gotten slammed drunk. While he was passed out, his friends stuck 2 AA batteries up the guy's dong. Not up his butt, his dong. From what I remember, they had to actually cut the guy's dong open to get them out and stitch it back together. I agree with you guys. I really hope he tried to charge them. He did tell my father-in-law they would no longer be his friends. It's an incredible invasion of privacy, if not sexual assault. I have no idea how one would pull this crap off. Those guys were not his friends. My grandfather was a proctologist from the 1950s-80s. He said the most difficult thing to remove was a crystal salt shaker. The most fragile was a light bulb. One year he was late to thanking because someone had decided to stuff the turkey. and come to my grandpa to get unstuffed. He said the onion was difficult to remove because it kept coming apart layer by layer. A guy came in saying that he got mugged by 3 guys with masks on and that they had placed an object in his bed. The object was a cylinder made of clay. It looked like a homemade vase. It broke in the process of removal. It had a small plastic bags of coke inside. It turned out the guy was trying to smuggle some coke, but after 12 hours of not being able to remove it, he went to the hospital. I'm a med student who just finished his rotation. I was assigned a patient who was known to be one of the resident butt packers on the unit, and he was presenting with abdominal pain. I was lucky enough to be able to interview him and make some deductions and get some imaging. Looking through the abdominal x-ray with the attending, we discovered that he had an excessively large potato in his rectum. That's par for the course, but what was hilarious was the attending's reaction. I had been working with him for weeks and he was a very straight-faced, dry humor kind of guy. He walked in and pulled up the x-ray, looked at the man, and said, "So we need to talk about chewing our food." I about lost it in the room, and now I tell this story every chance I get. Weirdest was a large zucchini. Had to deliver it with an oxygen suctioning cup. Other than that, flashlights, deodorant bottles, batteries, and even a vibrating corn cob. Poor guy couldn't sit in the waiting area because of the sound on the wooden bench. Crazy how far the rectum can stretch. I'm a scribe at my local, and one time an 80-year-old man was getting a CT scan and forewarned us that we would see something in his rectum that had been there at least 30 years but didn't bother to tell us what it was. It was a sword. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.